well, that's too much of a price increase, Chris. That's, I would have been okay with 12%. 20%? Too much. Too much, I say. This service business revolution that we are in the middle of, businesses that do not raise their hourly wage to pay their employees better are going to slowly get eaten by everything. Everything. Insurance, 8%. Oh, your tires are up 40%. Your oil changes up 50%. Chemical costs go up 10%. That's a static cost. I can't. Okay, so my literal overhead to just come out and do a job now costs 10% more than it did yesterday. I have to pass that on somewhere. This is not a hobby. Hey everybody, Chris Shipley, Shipley Pest Solutions. Wanted to discuss the idea of being too expensive in 2025 in the service industry. And this came about with, we're sending out seasonal renewals and everything for our regular services throughout the year, and gone very, very well. Incredibly grateful and thankful for the customers that we've certainly had a long time, new customers, just everybody. Very grateful and thankful to all of you. Appreciate the good criticism, the bad criticism. We try and improve. We try and do our best. And this really came about, we've had one whole complaint about price increases. And I debated doing price increases last year in 2024. Didn't do it. And truth be told, the latter months of last year, we started to get squeezed. It's tax time. We were looking at year-end numbers, looking at everything and budgeting and forecasting for this year. And, quite frankly, we got squeezed. And I know a bunch of other service businesses were the same. This doesn't matter if you're plumbing and heating, you're, weed and lawn, turf, landscaping, hardscaping, mosquito, GPC, all of that, any service business across, you're building decks, whatever. Everything has gone up. Our insurance, I think, was about 8% is what that went up, and so really wanted to discuss the concept of too expensive, or that's too much of a price increase for the service year over year. And it predominantly comes from anytime I get pricing pushback over the last few years, it has come from, I'll just say it, and this is going to ruffle feathers, but it's come from the retirement age people and not the people on fixed income. The people on fixed income, the old Mrs. Smith, and she says, well, Chris, that's too expensive, or that's getting expensive. I'm on a fixed income. I go out of my way to work with people and make sure that we can at least offer or provide something for them of value. And I certainly understand if you're on a fixed income. But that's not where we get the complaints or where we've had complaints. We get the complaints from people that are pretty well off and retirement age people. And I think a lot of it is we're seeing this sort of as a greater sort of rift or sort of revolution right now in our society, which is this sort of boomer generation that either refuses to retire or give up power or anything. I pulled myself up by my bootstraps. Kind of. You kind of did. You were born by the greatest generation of all time. You walked into the 70s, 80s, and 90s as technology expanded and allowed you to work incredibly efficiently, allowed you to expand your businesses. You didn't have international competition. The invention of the 401k happened with the boom of technology. And so 401ks exploded before you outsourced all of the American labor and squeezed every little last drop out of these companies' profits quarter over quarter. So whether your 401ks enriched and skyrocketed, now people like myself in my early 40s, we look at the landscape of labor, manufacturing, service, and we go, well, what the heck? We can't compete with a lot of this stuff for these prices you're used to, or back in my day. It's a direct result of basically the economy that the boomers created. And so, when I look and we're doing forecasting, and then I get literally a critique of, well, that's too much of a price increase. We're going to shop around. Okay. This isn't a hobby. This is a for-profit business. And if you don't raise your prices, you will be out of business within the next year or two. Because I can tell you from talking with lots of service businesses all across, okay, we're getting squeezed on insurance. Like I said, I think ours went up about 8%, roughly, somewhere in there. But then, just everything. Glue boards. I've used the glue board example before. They used to be 12, 13 cents, pre-COVID, and then they shot up to like 35 cents. They've since come back down a little bit. But then we start looking at, okay, if my insurance went up 8%, okay, well, what's it cost to put tires on this thing? New set of tires is basically $1,200. They used to be $750 4 or 5 years ago. New brakes. Okay, gas is kind of leveled off, luckily. Oil change. You know what an oil change in this is? $120, $125. 3-4 years ago, it was $75, $80. Everything has gone up. I love using the example of the Crunchwrap Supreme and the Big Macs. People don't have a problem paying double when McDonald's raises the price. Wendy's, Taco Bell, you go to every single restaurant, you go to the big box stores, they've all raised their prices. Service-based businesses such as myself and many others that are still here past COVID are the good ones that understand how to manage and run a business. And I can't help but take it personal when people have the gall to go, well, that's too much of a price increase, Chris. That's, I would have been okay with 12%. 20%? Too much. Too much, I say. And just to give you context of the amount of dollars we're looking at the account, it was a $50 increase year over year. So you're telling me $30 if I just raised your price $30, that $20 bill was okay. That was okay, right? That wouldn't have tipped the barrel over. And again, this is not aimed at the 99.9% of the customers, particularly our customers, which I am incredibly grateful for. You guys are amazing. I feel really grateful and thankful to have you guys. So many people go, I understand the price increase. And some go, oh, I would pay more. And, and so, again, one complaint, maybe if 5 or 10% of the customers were complaining, maybe I didn't raise it enough. Maybe I should go the other end and raise it 50%. And then if only 25% of the people complain, I'm making a lot more money. Have a lot less headaches, a lot less work. And so, the overall gist of this is that this service business revolution that we are in the middle of, businesses that do not raise their hourly wage to pay their employees better are going to slowly get eaten by everything. Everything. Insurance 8%. Oh, your tires are up 40%. Your oil change is up 50%. Chemical costs go up 10%. That's a static cost. I can't. Okay, so my literal overhead to just come out and do a job now costs 10% more than it did yesterday. I have to pass that on somewhere. This is not a hobby. This is really just from the perspective of, I'm not overall frustrated. It's just kind of, getting, again, I've only received these criticisms from a very specific part of the population. And I always find it ironic because they're the more well-off population. And they're the type of people that love to tell you what to do because back in my day, that's not how it was done. But unfortunately, because things weren't done that way back in your day, and then you outsourced all of our American manufacturing, so the replacement cost on my spray engine now costs double. Can only get it from China. How'd that happen? That didn't happen because of me in the 80s and 90s. My 401k was increasing and the board members demanded that, well, we got to drive revenue, Bob. You know what, Steve? You're correct. How about we outsource this engine labor to China so that we can drive profit margins so that our shareholders are happy? I understand that's the nature of the beast. Get it. But then you don't get to turn back around and go, no, you're not running your business well. You don't, that's too much of an increase. And ultimately, what that drives down to is that those types of customers are ultimately transactional. Now, certainly, there's a break point with everybody where, holy cow, it was $200 and now this year it's 500. Like that's crazy. No way. But when we're talking, it was 300 and it goes to 350 and it goes to 400 in the landscape of 2025, where quite literally basically everything at a big box store has gone up 25, 50 to 100%. It's just, okay. All right. And it just shows that those types of people, overall in the service business industry, those people don't value your service. They don't value your expertise. They don't value the fact that when we show up on a job site and there was mulch loosely strewn along your stamped sidewalk or the landscaping, or there's some flower petals or something, and then when we leave, we scoop all that stuff away or even pick up some of the trash and we leave it better than when we found it. There's no value for that. Nope. That's too much, Chris. That's too much. I will not pay for that. I don't value that. It's transactional only. And like I said last year, the video with the service business revolution, and I'll try and tag that because that resonated well with a lot of service business guys. The hardest generation is the retirement generation that's going to learn that lesson, because we now have to suffer the repercussions of all of this outsourcing, and we have to sort of recapitalize, and we have to recapture the market. For American manufacturing, what does that look like? Well, as everything else got outsourced, the only thing Americans produce outside of consumption is service labor. So you have a nice lake house. You have a beautiful property with outbuilding, pool house, all that stuff. But you want it serviced. Now when it comes time for landscaping, hardscaping, your flea tick mosquito, your general pest control. Oh, you want a new deck. You want the deck painted. Oh, you want your roofing done. You want the concrete. You want this. You want your plumbing done. That's all going to cost a lot more than what you're used to, because we don't have a choice. The price to play has gone up considerably in the last 3 to 4 years. Considerably. A lot of my products have doubled. And I have merely passed on, over the last few years, maybe a 30% increase on some accounts. Maybe. When the prices of a lot of my products have doubled. Okay? And price-wise, I know exactly where we're at in regards to our market, where we are, what we charge for pricing, and where we are nationally matters a lot less than where we are locally. And we're like a little above middle. We're like 3/4 of the way up on a 100-point scale. We're like 75%. We don't charge the most. We're not really we're slightly above the middle. But I think we offer a lot for our service. I've said it before. I will lose money hand over fist at your house, especially if we make a mistake. And if I misquote the job, first off, that's on me. My name's on the truck. That's on me. Okay? I'm not going to then come back and go, well, Bob, I told you 300, but really it's going to be 500. I eat that, and I keep it moving, and I take it as a lesson. The best lessons learned have always had zeros on the end for me. And, it's the biggest increase in a lot of this has been our hourly compensation for employees. I have made the choice that rather than sort of follow the crowd, which is service labor cannot get enough employees to provide the right amount of service for the calls coming in. And so we have been perpetually behind the last few years. Now, some of that was due to injury and whatnot. I mean, I had 2 knee surgeries a couple years ago that I lost 3.5 working months for. I mean, that's an incredible amount of time lost when I average 60 plus hours a week. And, some of that's still, we're catching up for that. So I wanted to be able to satisfy that need. Well, in order to do that, for me to go into the job market and bring people on, you can't pay people 15, 18, 20 bucks an hour. You just can't. Not if you don't want people that, I made that mistake. I had to let some people go. And again, my name's on the truck. That's on me. Okay. But I've learned those lessons. And in order for me to correct those lessons and this not be a hobby, prices go up. Because I like doing what I do. I consider myself very, very lucky to be able to solve real world problems. I don't go in and just type TPS reports all day, and just send them off to the ether. And no, it's a real problem. Whether it's ants on a counter, whether it's bed bugs in a house, whether it's roaches, whether it's termites that are literally eating your home the biggest investment or biggest purchase of your life, I consider myself very lucky, and we are very fortunate to be able to provide real world solutions to real problems for people. And having that knowledge and being armed with protocols and ways that we solve these problems, I've been in this almost 20 years, in business for 8. That's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and zeros on the end of mistakes that have gotten me to this point. And so, it's a very popular meme, I think it's a plumbing meme where it's, well, it only took you 5 minutes to solve that plumbing leak. Why'd you charge me $250? And the meme is, well, because, there's 20 years experience behind that 5 minutes it took me. And so, our hourly pay, I'm really proud of where our hourly pay for our employees is going to be. It was a substantial increase to increase our pay to where it is. It was over a 25% increase. But I'm making that investment because I'm fortunate and I feel as though our customers as well would support this idea, which is you want well-represented people to come into your home, that you feel comfortable with, are presentable, are going to be accountable if a mistake is made. You can still get a hold of me if you want to. Many of my customers have been customers for almost all 20 years I've been in the industry, and they're great sounding boards for me that help keep me grounded. Hey, Mrs. Smith, am I out of bounds here? What do you think about this? Oh, no, that's, or, well, could be, maybe that. I mean, I'm very fortunate to have a handful of those customers that I can really just go very carte blanche to and just talk, and they'll give it to me straight. And I think a lot of service businesses lean on those customers, lean on those people that have been with you since day one through thick and thin, that will be honest with you. And so when it comes to price increases, or you get a little pushback on price increases, go to those people. Hey, Mrs. Smith, we raised our prices and we had a couple of these people or one customer complain about it. What do you think? And, well, Johnny, I'll tell you, I've been a customer and I've seen, one thing I know about life is everything costs more at the end of the day, and you hear stuff like that. I love talking with old farmers and such. And, they have all these old sayings, well, as far as the crow flies when the wind blows from the east and the rain comes from the south. And, but, really it's just, I think it's important for service business people to understand your value and the value of your service that you're offering to the market. Now, that doesn't always translate to the customer that you come in their house, hey, we've just got this. You solve their problem. You make it look easy because you have 20 years experience, very nonchalant. You solve it very quickly. That doesn't always translate well to, this is why I deserve to be paid the price we are paid. But I think it's important to just have those sounding boards, have those mechanisms where knowing what your competition is charging for things and knowing that at the end of the day, you're providing a great service that you stand behind and you're accountable to. And, I think we're going to continue to hear a lot more of, oh, that's such an increase. Yeah, everything's gone up. Everything. I'm sorry it's not the price of 1995. When I first started in 2001, I remember what we were charging monthly for houses. We still had some houses for the company that I worked for at the time that were $20 to $23 a month. Now, this is 25 years ago. I left for a few years, and so overall I've been in the industry around 20 years. But it's, prices are double, which actually doesn't seem like much that regular prices are double what it was 25 years ago. That actually seems kind of less compared to everything else, but I just the greater message is stick to your guns. If 1, 2, even 5% have a problem with pricing, maybe that perch your ears up a little bit and be cognizant of that, but just kind of remain a little grounded and go, okay, are we off base here? Or 95% of the people didn't complain, and then 10% of the people told us they'd happily pay more, because I was telling people last year that we were going to raise prices, and at the time I didn't really have a full understanding, but I told people, I'm like, it's going to be a fair amount. And nearly every person said, I appreciate the heads up. Thank you. And I understand because everything's gone up. And so we sent them out, and it is what it is. Few price shoppers this year, one overt complaint. But understand your value, understand your worth to the market, and understand your value that you bring to the table to your customers. And don't let people that are purely transactional dictate what they think you're worth. And ultimately, at the end of the day, know your own worth. Know what you're worth when you show up at the doorstep, and be able to present that very well to people when it comes to, Mrs. Smith, I know on the phone, you had said that you thought that was a little expensive, but I just wanted you to know I appreciate you trusting us. And this is some of the value we add. We add a warranty with all of our services. Obviously it was very easy to get a hold of us. Oh, you sent us pictures of the ants. We were able to identify those within 30 minutes and get that back to you and positively ID that and then get you scheduled. And we were out here within 2 business days. Demonstrate your worth, demonstrate your value. Don't be afraid to say, this is why we're worth what we're worth. If you don't think we're worth that because this is a transactional thing to you and you don't appreciate the previous years of experience, the extra time we've taken, when you had issues, and we always showed up, we always answered the phone, and we always showed up and stood behind our warranty. If that is not a value to you, there's other businesses around, and you let those people go. Because there's going to be more of those people that just, as prices increase, it always makes people angry because they don't think that they should be paying for this. But the greater aspect is, why does everything cost more? And like I said at the beginning of the video, the nearing or retirement age people that have a problem with a lot of modern day pricing, not directly, but it's their generation that's the reason why everything costs what it costs. And know your worth. This is not a hobby. This is not a 501(c)(3). And be confident in your business, the services you provide. Be appreciative of your customers. Be very thankful and grateful of your customers when you do institute a price increase and you're able to, coherently lay out. I could line item to you, or customers, when they complain about the price, I'd give you the time of day and explain to you clearly, actually, my costs have gone up about 40%, but I only increased your price 18%. I can increase it 40 if you'd like, but we're not passing all of that on to you, because we're able to figure some other ways out to be creative and still provide a great service and do these things. Yeah, too expensive. What does that even mean?